someone with a sharp memory, you might remember a time in the 70s when canned foods were more popular than water.
I like to hide the meatballs and save them for last.
From fresh-tasting pineapples to chunky, nutritious beef stew, canned foods served basically every need you could think of. So, what were some of those canned goods that defined that era, and where have they disappeared to now? Here are 20 famous canned foods from the 1971. Libby fruit cocktail.
Can I have some, Tommy? Sure. You little squirt.
Libby's. 3 of the best names in the business.
For those of you who remember, Libby's fruit cocktail was the canned delight that swept through the 70s of way back when. Sugar lovers adored it because it turned ordinary fruit into a mix that looked like a party in a can. The story of Libby's fruit cocktail began with the Libby McNeil and Libby Company, which ironically started as a meat canning business in Chicago. But when they figured out that people like eating their fruit without the fuss of peeling or chopping, the fruit cocktail was born. Initially a way to salvage fruit that might otherwise end up as a waste product, it soon became a sensation. By the time the 70s rolled around, it was practically a requirement in every pantry. Folks loved the reliable flavor, vibrant colors, and the ability to make you feel like you'd put in some effort without actually doing so. You could get anything from diced peaches to pears to grapes, cherries, and even pineapples. It was perfect for those lazy days when you tried to convince yourself that opening a tin counted as making dessert. This colorful combo served as a go-to for busy families. It wasn't just fruit, it was a sweet little escape from the guilt of not having fresh fruits at home. Up next is a canned option that helped us in a different but necessary way. 2. Carnation evaporated milk.
I discovered velvetized carnation evaporated milk with these marvelous recipes on the back. Now my soups are rich, sauces are smooth, casseroles are interesting, and my desserts...
It wasn't exactly the most fresh option, but it was pretty darn close. Carnation evaporated milk was the kitchen staple that made its way into countless recipes and coffee cups, long before plant-based alternatives like almond milk were even an option in anyone's mind. Carnation's journey began in the late 19th century when E.A. Stewart founded the company with a focus on producing high-quality, shelf-stable dairy products. As the company grew, it spotted the opportunity for a new market. Carnation evaporated milk was soon introduced as a convenient and reliable alternative to fresh milk, particularly for those living in areas where refrigeration was a luxury. This thick, creamy concoction may have come in a can, but it was essentially regular milk with much of the water removed. You could put it in everything from creamy soups to decadent desserts. The sky was the limit because Carnation evaporated milk was known for its ability to transform ordinary dishes into creamy delights, was the secret weapon of home cooks looking to add a touch of indulgence without breaking the bank for the luxury of fresh milk. Who would have imagined canned milk would be the better option? Carnation was great, but up next is one other canned option that added that extra something, all while making you feel just a bit fancier than you really were. 3. Stokely's Van Camp's pork and beans.
Like Van Camp's pork and beans, they've been a part of the family for over a century, and there's no limit to the good-tasting ways folks find to prepare them.
Offering a mix of tender navy beans and tiny morsels of pork, Stokely Van Camp's pork and beans became an American comfort food for a reason. Back then, you opened the can to find your food swimming in a mildly sweet yet strikingly delicious tomato sauce. It was the kind of meal you could rely on when you needed something filling and satisfying without the fuss of dirty dishes. Just open the can, heat it up, and you have a dish that could stand alone or accompany any number of meals. And trust me, there was no limit to the crazy combos some folks came up with. What was the weirdest food creation you made with Stokely's? You can type that out in the comment section and we'll have a laugh together. So where did this strange but simple dinner option and its origin ref? The origins of Stokely Van Camp's pork and beans date back to the 1860s, when Gilbert Van Camp originally a grocer in Indianapolis, saw an opportunity in the growing market for canned goods. Recognizing the need for convenient food products, Van Camp began canning vegetables, eventually leading to the creation of pork and beans, which some of you might know very well. By combining navy beans with just enough pork to add flavor without breaking the budget, the product quickly became popular among families looking for easy-to-prepare meals. As the company grew and merged with Stokely Brothers in 1933, the product's distribution expanded. By the 70s, 70s, the pork and beans had become a classic thanks to the convenience food boom. It was the go-to side dish for backyard barbecues, campfire cookouts, and weeknight dinners, proving that sometimes the best comfort food comes in a simple can. There was, however, another canned food that far surpassed the comfort pork and beans gave us, and boy, was it a treat for the century. 4. Del Monte fruit salad.
The succulent one.
Taste it, Del Monte.
The tingly one.
Irresistible.
Del Monte fruit salad brought the kind of sweetness to American kitchens that few products ever since have been able to recreate. The mix of diced peaches, pears, grapes, pineapples, and cherries became a household favorite in the 70s. Each can was a ready-made solution for those who wanted to enjoy a colorful fruit salad without the effort of peeling, chopping, or worrying about seasonality. The origins of Del Monte fruit salad trace back to the early 1900s, with the Del Monte brand already recognized as a pioneer in the canned fruit industry. Founded in California, Del Monte had one main focus, and that was preserving the bounty of the state's orchards. With this, fresh fruit was available to consumers year-round. The concept of canned fruit salad emerged as a creative solution to maximize the use of surplus fruit. Absolutely nothing went to waste. Why throw excess fruit away when you could trade it in for some sweet bucks? By the mid-20th century, as America became increasingly fast-paced, the appeal of prepackaged, ready-to-eat products like Del Monte fruit salad soared. It was featured in countless recipes, from ambrosia salads to gelatin molds, and became a go-to option for busy homemakers. Whether served straight from the can or as part of a more elaborate dish, Del Monte fruit salad was the real deal. While it was celebrated for its bright colors and reliable flavor, our next entry was for the simple joy it brought to the table, offering a taste of quality without ever leaving home. 5. Brown bread in a can.
Wow, they actually have it! Canned bread!
Brown bread in a can was one of the more unique and quirky food items that found its way into American pantries back in those days. This product had a dense, slightly sweet loaf of molasses-flavored bread, all neatly packed in a can. It was dark, rich, and had a hearty texture that mostly melted in your mouth. This bread was a far cry from your typical white loaf. It was more of a novelty that brought a touch of old New England tradition to the dinner table. The origins of brown bread in a can go all the way back to the 19th century. It's strongly rooted in the culinary traditions of New England. Back then, this type of bread, made with a mix of wheat flour, rye flour, and cornmeal, was often steamed rather than baked, giving it that characteristic moist, dense texture which had people running to the bakery to get a taste. As canning technology advanced, companies like B&M saw an opportunity. B&M were mostly known for their baked beans, but by the start of the 70s, brown bread in a can became their most popular product. This canned bread was something special. It had gained a quirky sort of popularity nationwide, appealing to those who simply enjoyed the novelty of bread in a can. It was often paired with baked beans, another New England staple, or spread with butter for a simple yet satisfying treat. Despite its humble origins, brown bread in a can became a beloved part of many family meals, but it could not possibly be remembered as fondly as the next canned entry on our list. 6. Dinty Moore beef stew.
The stove was this hearty simmering pot of stew, chunks of beef, potatoes, carrots, and on the counter a can of Dinty Moore beef stew.
In the 1930s, while the tough times of the Great Depression were at their peak, Hormel Foods introduced us to a new way to provide a quick yet nourishing meal. It was none other than Dinty Moore's beef stew. The brand was named after a fictional Irish character from a popular comic strip, which only added to its down-to-earth, everyman appeal. By the 70s, Dinty Moore had become the most dependable option for any hustler struggling to make ends meet. This beef stew was the stick-to-your-ribs meal in a can that defined comfort food for many years. It was packed with chunks of beef, potatoes, and carrots, swimming in a thick, savory gravy. It offered a satisfying dinner solution for those who wanted something filling without the hassle of actually cooking. It had the ability to make you feel like you'd just eaten a home-cooked meal, even if all you really did was open a can and heat it up. Some of your friends might have been fooled by the deceptively tasty dishes, but deep down, all credit had to go to Dinty Moore. The beef stew was the kind of meal that made you feel like you'd been transported to a 13th century castle to dine with a king. Our next entry may be a fruity option, but the feeling it evoked was strikingly similar. 7. Dole pineapple chunks.
The oddest fruit in the world. Prickly outside, tingly sweet inside. It's Dole pineapple in its own juice.
Dole pineapple chunks were the tropical escape packed into a can. In the 70s, these juicy chunks brought a slice of vacation islands into kitchens everywhere. To make it, pineapples were peeled, cored, and diced so perfectly that they almost made you forget how much of a hassle fresh pineapples could be. Whether tossed into a fruit salad, skewered on a kebab, or just eaten straight from the can, Dole pineapple chunks could always be trusted. Looking to add a burst of sweetness and a touch of the exotic to your meals? These chunks were always the way to go. The story begins in the late 19th century with James Dole, who started a small fruit plantation in Hawaii with a big dream, turning pineapples into a global sensation. As the company grew, Dole perfected the art of canning pineapple, making it accessible to people far from the tropical climates where it grew. By the 1970s, Dole pineapple chunks had become synonymous with convenience and quality, delivering the sweet taste of the islands without the sticky fingers or the awkward wrestling match with a prickly fruit. They were perfect for adding a touch of the exotic to everyday dishes. Whether or not you could actually pronounce pineapple upside-down cake, you could add a little sunshine to your day without the risk of accidentally hurting yourself trying to cut a pineapple. Speaking of adding a little sunshine to your day, our next entry added even more sunshine to your sandwiches. Can you guess what it might be? 8. Underwood deviled ham spread.
The talk with Mom. Lunches were getting pretty boring, so I told her about Underwood chicken spread. Now look what she does with our sandwiches.
If you guessed right, then you've probably eaten enough deviled ham spread to fill a small swimming pool. It was the spicy little secret that livened up sandwiches and snacks throughout the 70s. It kicked off in 1868 when the William Underwood Company, originally a manufacturer of packaged seafood, decided to diversify. They introduced this deviled ham as a way to preserve meat in a flavorful, long-lasting form. The deviling process, which was basically the addition of spicy seasonings, was their way of making sure this wasn't just any old canned meat. By the 70s, it had secured its place on grocery store shelves and in lunchboxes across America. Packed in its iconic paper-wrapped can, this savory spread was a blend of finely ground ham mixed with a devilish combination of spices. Whether slathered on a cracker, stuffed into a sandwich, or used as a dip, Underwood deviled ham always packed a yummy punch. While deviled ham was the breakfast savior, our next canned meal preferred to stick to saving our dinners. 9. Milk Franco-American spaghetti with cheese.
Anyone can give a kid a dish that's a treat, 'cause it's fun to eat. Franco-American.
Cheesy indulgence never felt better than with Milk Franco-American spaghetti. Remember those days of slurping mouthfuls of creamy pasta? We only have Milk Franco to thank for that. It combined tender spaghetti noodles with a rich, cheesy sauce, all packed neatly into a can for maximum ease. Dad may have hated it, but kids couldn't get enough of it. The Franco-American brand had been delivering ready-to-eat meals since the early 20th century. Originally focusing on traditional French dishes, the company eventually expanded into Italian-American fare, including its popular spaghetti offerings. Whether served as a main dish or a side, it was loved for its creamy texture and the nostalgic flavors of home-cooked goodness. Because it was easy to prepare and satisfyingly cheesy, millions of people were convinced it was the ideal pantry item. By the 70s, Milk Franco had become a household favorite. And why is that? Well, think about it. When was the last time you had a meal that took you less than 5 minutes to prepare? And cereal doesn't count, by the way. Now, let's move on to another canned food that saved tummies back in the good old days. 10. Libby's pumpkin pie filling.
Here is the final product. It is so good.
Packed with perfectly spiced, pureed pumpkin, Libby's pumpkin pie filling was the essential ingredient that transformed the classic American dessert into a no-fail success. This canned filling made it easy to whip up a delicious pumpkin pie with minimal effort. All you had to do was mix it with eggs and evaporated milk, pour it into a crust, and bake. Voila! You had a pie that could give professional bakers a run for their money, like you spent hours in the kitchen. Libby's pumpkin pie filling became synonymous with Thanksgiving, ensuring that even the most reluctant bakers could produce a pie that would impress those hungry visitors during holiday season. Libby's pumpkin pie filling took the guesswork out of pie making. Whether you were a seasoned baker or someone who only used your oven for storage, Libby's made sure you could pull off a pumpkin pie that tasted like it came from Grandma's kitchen. Up next is a canned dish that tasted like the heart of Italy. 11. Chef Boyardee. This brand has a name that sounds like it belongs on a Parisian bistro menu, but is actually American through and through. Known for its range of canned pasta products, from spaghetti and meatballs to beefaroni, Chef Boyardee made eating Italian food accessible and convenient. Because of that, it will never be forgotten. It was created by a man named Hector Boiardi, an Italian-American chef who opened a restaurant in Cleveland in the 1920s. His homemade pasta sauces were so popular that he decided to market them on scale, leading to the launch of canned pasta products in the 30s. By the 70s, Chef Boyardee had become a nationwide famous name with a reputation for delivering quality and convenience with a touch of Italian flair. Despite the humorous misspelling of the name to sound more Italian, the brand's success was no joke. It made it possible for anyone to enjoy a taste of traditional Italian cooking with just a can opener and a few minutes on the stove. The brand's canned meals, featuring hearty portions and comforting flavors, were a quick solution for busy families who craved a taste of Italy without the effort of cooking from scratch. With its bright red label and the iconic chef's face, Chef Boyardee became the image repping the canned food era of American culinary choices, and we loved it for that. But of its satisfying treats that could be ready in minutes you wanted, then our next canned item was the emperor of that department. 12. Betty Crocker Frosting.
Betty Crocker ready-to-spread frosting is homogenized so smooth it spreads easier, tastes creamier than any homemade buttercream frosting.
Betty Crocker Frosting was the sweet finishing touch that transformed homemade cakes and cupcakes. With a variety of flavors like chocolate, vanilla, and cream cheese, this pre-made frosting made it incredibly easy to add a layer of sugary goodness to your baked goods. Whether you were a novice baker or a seasoned pro, Betty Crocker Frosting offered something few brands could boast of: a reliable way to achieve that perfect, smooth, and creamy finish. No mixing, no mess. Known for its convenience and consistent quality, it was the go-to choice for anyone looking to impress with minimal effort, making every celebration just a bit sweeter. Established in the 1920s, the Betty Crocker brand initially focused on baking mixes and convenience products. By the 50s, their famous frosting was introduced, and it quickly became a favorite for its delectable flavors. And I mean delectable. It was basically a super celeb among bakers all over America. By the 70s, it had crossed the threshold to become a common kitchen fixture. Not having Betty Crocker frosting in your pantry was a strange thing, and eating a cake without it slathered on the surface seemed like a crime. With it, even the most modest of cakes became the centerpiece of any occasion. You could go from plain to posh with just a few swipes of the spatula. 13. Armour Vienna Sausages.
Libby's Vienna Sausage. Libby's is made with all meat, no fillers, so they're always plump, juicy, and delicious.
Vienna sausages were the product of a long history of innovation in processed foods. Sure, they had been around for a while, but the genius idea to put them in a can took America by surprise. The origin of these strange sausages can be traced back to the early days of European history, but their rise to fame is closely linked to the introduction of the brand by the Armour Meat Company. Founded in 1867 by Philip Danforth Armour and his brothers, Armour and Company initially focused on providing fresh meat to the American market. As the demand for convenient and long-lasting food products grew, Armour seized the opportunity to enter the canned meat market. By the 30s, Armour began producing Vienna sausage, inspired by European-style sausages. However, there was one key difference. Making a cultural transplant like that was not as straightforward as one might think. They had to adapt for the American palate, and to say that choice paid off is right. The sausages quickly gained popularity due to their convenience, long shelf life, and distinctive flavor. Whether used in everyday meals, packed for camping trips, or enjoyed straight from the can, Vienna sausages were always a top choice. Their success helped solidify Armour's reputation as a leader in the processed meat industry. Even simple products could achieve iconic status with the right blend of convenience. It also helped that they were really tasty. Tastiness is always a bonus when it comes to the easy access canned foods provide, which is why our next entry was basically leaping off the supermarket shelves. 14. Hormel Spam Spread.
Spam Spread. One of the good meat spreads from Hormel. Good-tasting pork shoulder and ham meat that costs you less than the leading deviled ham spread.
Hormel Spam Spread was the versatile, spreadable version of the iconic Spam that gained popularity in the 70s. This product took the classic Spam concept, pork, salt, and seasoning, and transformed it into a creamy spread. This all-purpose spread could easily be slathered on crackers, sandwiches, or used in recipes. With its distinct fishy flavor, Hormel Spam Spread was a practical solution for adding meaty goodness to meals. It became a staple for busy households, picnics, and potlucks, providing a quick and satisfying option for a variety of occasions. In 1937, George A. Hormel revolutionized the canned meat market with the introduction of Spam, a product that quickly became a wartime staple due to its long shelf life and easy storage. Building on the success of Spam, Hormel introduced Spam Spread in the 60s as a way to offer consumers a new, convenient way to enjoy the same great taste in a more versatile form. By the 70s, Spam Spread had become a bestseller in its own right. The growing preference for convenience foods in that era did not only give rise to Hormel's famous Spam, it also produced a solid contender that is none other than our next entry. 15. Libby's Corned Beef Hash.
And that's corned beef hash, and for good reason. Men like hash, especially the way it's made by expert chefs.
Do you feel those memories rushing back to you? Tearing open a can of Libby's corned beef hash was a core part of Saturday breakfast routine. This canned dish combines finely chopped corned beef with potatoes, onions, and seasoning, all mixed together and pre-cooked for convenience. Simply heat it up and you have a satisfying meal that could be served for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Known for its robust, savory flavor and its ability to be quickly transformed into a meal, Libby's corned beef hash became a go-to for busy families and anyone in need of a quick, satisfying dish. By the early 20th century, Libby, McNeil, and Libby Company had expanded their product line to include various ready-to-eat meals, including their popular corned beef hash. Their big idea was to jump on the canned food trend and introduce this convenient way to enjoy the classic combination of corned beef and potatoes. Before we knew what was happening, Libby's corned beef hash had established itself as the belle of the ball. Stores were selling out. Wholesalers were booked for months. It was like the gold rush, but better. Imagine having so much umami flavor unlocked with something as simple as a can opener. That's what Libby's gave us with their time-tested corned beef hash. Creating something of that caliber is no walk in the park. Only a few canned items have ever been able to touch those unpopulated heights of food greatness. And our next entry is right up there with the rest of them. 16. Leroy Chicken Chow Mein.
Not Choi makes Chinese food. Swing American. Think of it.
Chicken Chow Mein, the only dish where the chicken gets to noodle around without being accused of foul play. Get it? What made it special was its blend of authentic Chinese-American flavors combined with the ease of preparation. The dish featured a carefully balanced mix of tender chicken, crisp vegetables, and savory sauce, all mixed with crunchy, crispy noodles. This combination not only provided a satisfying meal, but also delivered a texture contrast that made each bite interesting and enjoyable. Leroy Chicken Chow Mein saw a lot of success because it was part of the trend introducing international flavors into the American food market. The consumers wanted a taste of diverse cuisines, and chow mein satisfied that need in the best possible way. Its convenience as a canned meal meant that busy families could enjoy a taste of Chinese-American cuisine without the hassle of ordering takeout or preparing complex dishes. It was a lifesaver for those Asians who desperately missed their native food, but were too busy working to make it the right way. By the 70s, Leroy Chicken Chow Mein had secured its place in the pantry. Today, you might still find some cans on the shelves, but it's nothing compared to back then. Up next is a sweet little product that had kids begging their parents for a taste. 17. Hunt's Snack Pack Pudding.
You love the taste of Snack Pack, 'cause Snack Pack makes...
How many of you grew up craving the taste of Hunt's Snack Pack Pudding as it melted in your mouth? It was the childhood treat that made lunchboxes a little more exciting. After-school snacks were also a blast in the 70s for this same reason. Hunt's, originally known for its tomato products, ventured into the world of pudding with the launch of Snack Pack Pudding in 1968. The idea was simple: create a dessert that could be enjoyed anywhere without the need for spoons, refrigeration, or any of that fancy stuff. It quickly became a hit, with its small, easy-to-open cans finding their way into countless lunch bags. While packaged in those convenient single-serving cans, this creamy pudding could come in classic flavors like chocolate, vanilla, and butterscotch. It was the perfect grab-and-go snack that required no refrigeration and satisfied any sweet tooth on the spot. After making it through a rough day, sometimes you just needed a little sweet snack as a reward. Hunt's Snack Pack Pudding was always the way to go when it came to portable indulgence, especially for adults that had a sweet tooth that couldn't be easily satisfied by chocolate. Hunt's Snack Pack Pudding was there because sometimes you just need to remind yourself that dessert doesn't have to be complicated. Who has time for spoons when there's pudding to be eaten? Up next is a strangely named canned food that curiously tricked us into becoming #1 on any shopping list. 18. Potted meat food.
It's called potted meat food product. That's actually the name of the product, and it's brought to us by the wonderful Libby's Corporation.
It was the kind of food that made you appreciate the simplicity of the label, potted meat food. Because really, what more did you need to know? Potted meat food was the curious canned concoction that had us scratching our heads when it graced pantry shelves in the 70s. The origins of potted meat food trace back to the early 20th century, when the need for shelf-stable, affordable protein options led companies like Armour and Underwood to create these compact meat spreads. This mysterious spreadable meat product, made from a blend of finely ground meats and seasonings, was packed into small cans and praised as the ultimate versatile snack. It could be slathered on crackers, sandwiched between slices of bread, or just eaten straight from the can. That last option was only for the truly adventurous, so don't try it at home. Potted meat food was known for its distinct, savory flavor and, let's face it, its ability to raise a few eyebrows at the dinner table. That doesn't mean it wasn't a lifesaver, though. We can at least be grateful it existed. That feeling is multiplied 1,000 times when we think about the next canned food on our list, 19, Hormel tamales.
Grandma mother had tamales, whoa! Dining carry out delivery, made hot and fresh for you and me.
If you wanted a taste of Tex-Mex without having to go on a cross-country road trip, these tamales were the way to go. Packed in their signature sauce, they were a convenient option for anyone with a monstrous craving. With their soft masa exterior and savory meat filling, Hormel tamales offered a surprisingly satisfying experience straight from the can, even though Mom would tell you to use a plate instead. They were so delicious you could eat them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They became a pantry regular for families looking to spice up their weeknight dinners without much fuss. Hormel tamales quickly found their place in American kitchens because of its ability to bring a bit of south-of-the-border flair to the table. People who had no idea how to make them could eat them anytime they wanted. It was the best lazy option for a lazy day at home. Even if the most authentic thing about them was the sauce, we still loved every bite. Our last entry took things a little further when it came to a taste of paradise in every bite. 20. Swanson chicken a la king.
Chicken a la king.
Swanson chicken a la king was the comforting, creamy dish that defined the 70s. Even if it came straight from the freezer aisle, this rich, savory meal featured tender chunks of chicken in a velvety sauce, accompanied by a mix of mushrooms, peas, and pimentos, all served over a warm bed of rice or biscuits. Maybe you can stop salivating now and run to the store to grab a can. It was the kind of meal that made you feel fancy without having to spend hours in the kitchen. Swanson's foray into chicken a la king began in the 50s as part of the brand's larger push into frozen convenience foods. Originally, chicken a la king was a dish served in upscale restaurants, but Swanson saw an opportunity to bring this indulgent meal to the masses. No reservations required. The product quickly gained popularity, especially during the 70s, when frozen meals were the height of fine dining. So which of these meals were your favorite? Do you remember any canned food we missed out? Let's know in the comments.